Hey friend, welcome to Milk and Honey with Lemon. The Bible says in Numbers 14:8, and if the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us safely into that land and give it to us. It is a rich land flowing with milk and honey. On this podcast, we talk about stepping into that overflow that God has for us by becoming those ultimate Proverbs 31 women. Hey, I'm Lemon. I am just like you, sister friend. I knew God had something more in store for me, but I couldn't see a way out of the laundry piles. And frankly, I resented that Proverbs 31 woman. How was I going to live up to the hype? That is until I found out how to really step into becoming this Proverbs 31 woman through leadership development. In this podcast, you're going to find financial freedom, leadership growth, and motivation so you'll be able to do all the things God has called you to do with ease and really step into that land of milk and honey. Welcome back to the Milk and Honey podcast. I'm your host, Lemon Price, and I am really excited. I don't, normally you'd get somebody a little, in business or whatever, but I'm excited because today I brought my husband with me, which I didn't think I was going to do. But then it hit me the other day when we talked about this a few days ago. I'm like, I want you to be on the podcast. So anyway, friends, meet my husband, Glenn.
Hello, everybody.
I'm so excited. Babe, can you tell them a little bit about your background and things?
40 years old. I've been a truck driver, been in the oil field, been in the military, in the Army for 10 years, and now I'm back to trucking.
So blue collar, basically your whole life.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm excited because this is really good because I obviously am not a blue collar kind of girl. I don't know if you knew that about me in the 5.5 years that we've been married, but it's definitely not my cup of tea. I've definitely been a behind the desk type of a person. And so I hear from a lot of women actually that they have a really difficult time talking to like their blue collar husband, or, they struggle to talk to their husband about, I feel like God's calling me to something, or I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And so they have a really difficult time having that conversation with their spouse. And you've supported me through whatever I've told you I wanted to do. Can you talk about what that's like from your perspective when I come to you with, I want to do this thing?
I think that first off, anytime you come to me with, I want to do this thing, it's, oh boy, here we go. But, go ahead and shoot. Tell me. And, I enjoy listening to whatever it is interests you, because each time it lets me, get to know you as my wife a little bit better. And, so that part excites me. And then it's, of course I have questions. I want to know if it's worthwhile, especially if this is a spur of the moment thing. What was your thinking behind it? What brought you to this decision? The practical questions that I think a lot of guys want to know. A lot of times, especially if it involves money, we want to know, what is this money going towards? So I think, just those general interview questions, if you will, to find out what exactly it is that we are getting ourselves into.
Okay, so I like that you said a lot of things. It's almost like an interview and things like that. And when I talk to other women, they're like, oh, I just know my husband's going to shoot me down. He doesn't support me, or whatever it is. But hearing you ask these questions, and I know my husband, he's talked to people that I've considered hiring before to suss out how we feel about things as a unit. And he'll tell me whether he has a good feeling or not. And it's not that he'll I will tell you, Glenn almost never says no to something. But what he will do is be like, I don't know that this is the right move for you right now, and express his concerns. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it comes out of a protection place, and a place of, you just really love me and want the best for me.
No, absolutely. It's exactly that, because, just as we don't want our children getting taken advantage of, I definitely don't want my wife getting taken advantage of. And so as the protector, provider, and man of the house, it is my job to make sure that, those predators that we all know are out there in many different forms, including in business, aren't, posing any threat to the ones that mean the most to me.
I really like that answer a lot, actually, because I think sometimes when I talk to some women Or I hear women's stories are like, oh, my husband just says no because he doesn't support me, or whatever the case may be. But I don't think it's just, I mean, I don't know, maybe he does. I don't know. I don't know your husband, but I know mine is very protective and he just wants the absolute best for me. And so I would love to get and guys, I didn't prep Glenn for this conversation at all, by the way.
Not at all.
I told him what we were going to talk about 3 minutes before I hit record. But I want to know how you would feel. And I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. Say there's something I feel completely convicted on doing. I'm like, I have fasted, I've prayed about this. I feel like this is where the Lord wants me to go. And you don't agree.
Okay.
Like maybe you don't have the same conviction or whatever it is. I would love to know, because Glenn and I've talked about this on the podcast before. I've blogged about it, whatever. Like we definitely believe in a biblical order, right? Like 100%. I think there's a give and take in our submission type of a situation.
Absolutely.
And I've said this before, you can only have one president of your household and a vice president. And so we both can't be the president. And so I would love to know your feelings. Say I felt very convicted on something and you didn't, but I was like, I think this is where the Lord wants me to go. And I did it anyway.
As far as, you mean, how would I feel about it? Or,
Yeah.
In that manner, I would say that if you have prayed on it and you feel like it's something that you are deeply being called, I think that it is my place to support you, because who am I, a man, to question God? Now, just because I don't understand it, it's as I've found myself saying a lot when I speak about, spiritual things or God, anything like that, is we are fallible. God is infallible. So just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that it's not correct. Doesn't mean that it's not in his plan. And so I'm going to do my best to support you any way I can, especially if you have been in prayer about this. Then, I have to trust in that faith. I know that you have a very strong faith, and I'm constantly working to strengthen mine. But ultimately, I would have to pray on it myself, but pray on it while I am trusting you and your faith.
Okay. See, and as you were talking, that's all I could think about is that when it comes to this, like I have to trust your faith too and your discernment. That is 100% my husband's spiritual gift is discernment. And so when, I come to you with something and you're like, I don't know, like I think it's the conviction too in the conversation that we're having. Is this something you're like, maybe I don't know? Because, right, if I feel deeply convicted and you're in like an maybe I don't know type of a situation, that's one thing. But if, you're like, no, really, like I get a really bad feeling from this. I mean, I remember that being an issue when I had my agency. You got a bad vibe. And then when I told you there was new age stuff going on that I hadn't even told you about was happening, you were like, get out. Like you have to be done with this. Where I was like, I'm like, it's supporting our household right now. And, I tried to justify it away, and I'm not like proud of that, but I did. I tried to justify it. But your discernment, it was like, no, like this has to be something that has to be done. Like we're finished with this. And so I think an important part of this conversation is that I know where your heart posture is. And I know you have your own relationship with the Lord. It's just as like I have my own, and trusting the relationship that we each have with the Lord too, almost a little bit above like each other, because like you said, we're fallible.
And again, I remember that time, with the business and the whole new agey thing, the woo-woo thing. And, it was, to me, no question that you definitely had to get out of it. No amount of money is worth, playing around with that kind of stuff. And I don't mean to get off topic here, but what I'm saying is, I guess, to digress back to those investigation questions, because for me, with discernment, that's also helping me buy those answers. Yes, I'm trusting you in your faith, but at the same time, I'm also using that discernment to, fill it out for myself, through the Holy Spirit through me. But yeah, I guess I got a little off there.
No, I think this is such a good, I think this is an important conversation to have. I'm telling you, we keep talking like maybe we should have a marriage podcast and talk about all of these things that we do, because if you guys want one, if you want to hear Glenn and I talk about stuff on a regular basis, then shoot me a message on Instagram and tell me you would listen to it, because Glenn will tell you even today, if one person says, yes, I'd be interested in that, then I'll just run and do it.
1,000%.
One person, yeah, I think that's a great idea, then I'm going to do it. Yeah, he literally watched that happen this morning.
There are definitely some times where I'm like, whoa, slow down there, boss. Let's think about this. But no, I love it too, though. Your excitement level that you get about certain things. And when you have an idea, I mean, let's be honest, we all do it at some point. We get this idea and we just want to roll with it. We run it by somebody. We might get, 5 no's, like that's not too good of an idea. And then you get that one yes, and you're like, bam, green light, let's go. And, something else that I wanted to mention is, communication with your spouse, whether it's the husband to the wife or the wife to the husband, that communication is so important in order to be able to have any sort of relationship. I mean, it's your ground zero. You can't have anything else. You can't have love. You can't have trust without communication. All of it is born from communication. So when it comes to, Lemon making these decisions or wanting to go into these business ventures or what have you, that's what does it for me, is we're constantly communicating. She's constantly explaining the whys and giving me the vision. And therefore, through listening, that's another important part. Through listening, I'm able to start visualizing the same vision that she's having. And then that gets me excited to want to watch her grow in whatever it is.
Oh, I love that you said that, because so Glenn and I, we have this app and I can link it for you guys. It's called Paired, and it's literally just questions every single day for you and your spouse to answer. And what I like about it is that you can't see each other's answer until you've answered it yourself. And so you have no choice but to be honest about your feelings, because you don't know how your spouse is responding necessarily. And the other day, when was it? Was it Friday maybe? I don't know, or Saturday, something.
We played it every day.
I know, we have. We're on like a 30-something day streak. I'm really proud of us. But the question the other day was like, 5 years from now, what is your vision?
Yeah, I remember that. Actually, no, I think that was today's question.
Was it today's question? Guys, we do it every day. Now I'm going to look.
And we definitely lose track of when questions come because we get up so early in the morning. So that was like eons ago. That was hours ago. But yeah, I believe that was today. And
today? I'm looking while he's talking.
I'll definitely say your answer was far more detailed than mine.
It was today.
It was. But see, the thing about it is it'll flip flop. I mean, one time, I'll write a novel as to what I see, and the next she will. So
no, but I liked what you said. So do you remember the text you sent me this morning after you read my vision?
That you had me in tears?
Yeah. Why?
Because it's ultimately, I may not have wrote that much, but it's everything that I want as well. And, that I'm sure you're about to say, that's the goal, right?
It is the goal. It's not necessarily like my vision. It's not necessarily your vision, but one that we've crafted together, and seeing what's possible. And I really love vision casting conversations. I could do that all day. I'm definitely more of a visionary than an implementer, for sure. And so I love to talk about what's possible and what are we going to do when we achieve this thing, and what does our life look like, and just painting that picture. And I think for us, especially, and this might be helpful for you, but to sit and figure out, what is my life? What do I want my life to look like in 5 years? And then backward plan that. I know Glenn wants to woodwork full time. That's what he wants to do. He loves it. And so it's important, as we're house hunting right now, like I need to make sure he has at least space to get started until we can buy something even bigger and have more land and he has more space and everything. And he needs music space because he's a musician. And so that was obviously a woodworking space, and music space was not on my list of things that I needed. But because we have a vision of what we want our life to look like, we've married our vision together.
But likewise, it's not, just as she looks to see, hey, does this place have a have a great shop for woodworking? Or does this have a great musician space? Whenever I'm looking at houses at the same time, I'm saying, okay, where can she have a house? You know, this might be the ideal house. And if it doesn't have the room inside, does it have enough room in the backyard for a she shed that we can turn into an office slash recording studio? You know, so I think that it goes both ways. Just as she, put my wants and desires into her vision for our future, it's also important, that the other spouse does the same thing, and again, this may not be what we thought we wanted, in the beginning, but you grow together, and then each other's vision, it just melds and intertwines, much like we do when we get married. That flesh becomes one.
I love that. Okay, so I want to talk about, because I get this conversation a lot with women whose husbands do not understand GPA and are very much either on the fence about it, or, it's almost like they almost have to hide it from their spouse. And not that I want you guys to hide this from your spouse, right? But I would love, because you were also anti-network marketing.
Yes.
And so I would love to know, because I also came to you with a wishy-washy approach, and we've talked about this extensively on here. Anytime Molly or Michelle come on here, they laugh because I was very anti and wasn't. I almost came to you as like a joke. I was like, oh my God, these ladies, they think it's going to help, whatever, and it wasn't that exciting. So I didn't have the strong conviction necessarily. And I almost came to you because I thought for sure that you would match my conviction on it. I thought for sure you'd be like, yeah, babe, I think this is a terrible idea, but that's not what you did, which was surprising. So can you kind of talk about that whole conversation and how we ended up here?
Yeah, I remember you bringing it to me. And first off, let me just put it out there that whenever, I used to hear about MLMs or, network marketing, I automatically meant, in my mind went to, how are we going to say it so we're not like putting anybody's name out there? Through Rimmons, those leggings, or what lonely housewives, or military wives do to pass the time. So little did I know just how amazing and what such a huge industry network marketing is. And just, I didn't realize that it was a multi-billion-dollar industry. But I remember when Lemon came to me about this, and, at first, of course, I hear, network marketing. I'm thinking, oh man, you're biting, you're taking the bait. And then she started going into what it was. And, when I heard that there was a, Christian aspect to it, and that we weren't going to have to be keeping a bunch of product in stock on hand and trying to move product, in the physical sense, that really, piqued my interest. And then she just told me more about it. And she told me about these certification courses and, like what's now called the Kingdom Leadership Academy, and your Kingdom Speaker Academy, and your Kingdom Leadership Coaching Academy. And when she started explaining all this to me, and I started seeing nothing but benefits and hearing nothing but benefits on how this could prove her in both the business place as well as her as a person personally. And so really when I found out there was that, and then there's the bonus of having a business that can actually grow beyond belief, when it comes to monetary. It was a no-brainer at that point, and honestly, it has been such a huge blessing.
I love that. Yeah, because I was very anti-network marketing beforehand. If there was a poster child for anti-network marketing, it was me.
I don't mean to cut you off, but that was another thing that really surprised me, was the fact that you brought something that was network marketing to me. There was that kind of took me back, and that really made me listen, because you of all people, having the mindset that you did about network marketing, I was like, wow, if she is coming to me, either the person that talked to her about this is really good.
And that's Molly, guys. She's been on the podcast twice.
Oh yeah, Molly's great. But that person is either really good or this is just an all around amazing product that is definitely worth looking into. And what would you know? They both happen to be true, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's so funny because I really thought when I came to you with this conversation, because I had no intention of actually signing up. I don't know if I told you that during that conversation. Like, I had no intention of actually getting involved at all, especially because I had so many of my friends tell me it was the worst decision ever. And and you guys know what has happened, right? Like, I've been in Forbes twice. I'm a certified speaker. We're looking at booking paid speaking gigs. There's a whole thing. I became a certified life and leadership coach. Like, amazing things have happened. But you have seen transformation in me in the last year and a half or so. So much so that it sparked you to get involved when we opened the men's side in January.
Oh, 1,000%. And when I saw the change that was taking place, I saw how it was affecting her, just her daily life, her disposition. And then, I knew that she was taking all of these classes that were, at that time Greek to me. I didn't know what a leadership class, I didn't know what that could possibly be, or a speaker class. I mean, sure, I've been on stage as a musician, but, I had no clue what she could possibly be talking about. But just that transformation. And then, you went to Activate for the first Activate, and then you went to the second Activate. And I saw the pictures and I'd seen some video, and then I was all like, and then you got tiaras, and I was like, whoa, what is this? When do guys get to get in on something like this? Because I see all this happiness. And, she starts telling me about some of the change she's experiencing. And, I hear about change in the other ladies. And I'm like, man, I would love to know when the men are going to get to find out what all this awesomeness is. And thankfully, they came out with RMA, Real Men Alliance. And let me just tell you, it has been amazing. From someone also that wanted nothing to do with network marketing. Yes, it is network marketing. Yes, there is a ton of financial gains possible in this industry. But there is also a wealth of knowledge and growth, both spiritually, personally, just your outlook on life. I cannot say enough about this organization, about this business. At times, it's so great that I don't even want to refer to it as a business because it is life-changing.
I love that you said that so much. So you just finished week 15. So literally he just finished his class, I don't know, 40 minutes ago. And he only has one class left on Monday. So by the time this airs, you just know Glenn will be done his first official round on Monday. I would love to know what your experience has been, because is it okay if I share with them your thought process throughout a little bit?
Oh boy, go ahead.
So I remember the very first week of Radiant Leadership Academy, you text me, and he was in our kitchen and I was in our living room. So I could see him, right? I could see this man. He texts me and he says, I don't think I belong here. I don't think this is for me. I don't belong here.
Absolutely.
He did, 100%. And then on week 2, he texts me and he said, I'm so sorry if it ever felt like I wasn't supportive, even though my husband is supportive. He was like, but he's like, I fully get it now. That was on week 2. He was like, I get it.
Week 2 was very powerful.
Yeah. He was like, I'm in it to win it. Week 6, this man sends me 75 text messages in a 30-minute time frame. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, because he had so many takeaways and so many breakthroughs. And it was like the vision that I've had. And of course, and we talked about this at the very beginning, Glenn has bought into my vision and I've bought into his, but it was like a real convergence of, you were like, oh no, I fully understand what you've been trying to convey to the family throughout this time frame. And so now you're only a week away from graduating. So I would love if you would talk through even what's happened from January until now and how that has radically transformed your outlook.
Let me put it this way, to fully understand the change that takes place, it's one that you can't really describe. It's, trying to describe what a roller coaster feels like to somebody that's never, been on one. It's hard to describe how it feels. It's really something that I had to experience for myself. And, you know, everybody that I've been in class with has had just the most beautiful, huge takeaways and experiences on a weekly basis, just as I have. And, you know, but it's really it's hard to explain the information. First off, Michelle Schaefer is just amazing. Michelle, if you're listening to this, love you. And I can't speak highly enough about the Radiant Leadership, now Kingdom Leadership Academy. It really is life-changing in ways that are very hard for me to put into words, just because the mindsets change, just the way you view things on a day-to-day basis changes on a weekly basis. And these past, 15 weeks first off, they've gone by in a blink of an eye. I feel like I've only been in class like 2 weeks. So the fact that it's been 15, it's just, I can't say enough about it.
Love that so much. How do you feel like taking it has impacted our relationship?
I think that it's given me, definitely more of an understanding of how you view things now. I think because everybody that goes through the class is getting all the same types of tools. So it helps me there. And honestly, it's taught me a lot of grace, which is something I never thought I would ever hear myself saying. And I know that we all need to have a certain amount of grace, but before this class, I didn't really have a lot of grace. And that's a flaw and a fault that I will freely admit. Maybe that's a little bit of the army in me, or, the army in the oil field. Either way, they're not very graceful positions. They're very hard blue collar jobs, but it's definitely opened my eyes up so much to just how great our Heavenly Father is. And the things that are communicated in this class, just once again, they're life changing. It's something that you really need to experience, because it will impact you on another level. Yes, I will admit this. I have actually cried in this class full of women a few times. Now I get off of camera very quick, but I have shed multiple tears in this class.
I love this. And starting on May 6th, which I'm excited about, there's going to be a men's only class. And I said this last week on the podcast, I am contemplating opening up a class in the morning for women to go through. If you're married, you guys could go through this at the same time. He could be in a class full of all men, and then you be in a class of all women, and you guys are getting the same tools and the same education at the same time. And I think that would actually be really impactful for your relationship to have that experience together, but still be in spaces where you can be 100% vulnerable and honest with yourself. Like, we never recommend husbands and wives take the same exact class together, like with the same instructor, just because then, it could be weird to be as vulnerable and things like that. I mean, I don't think Glenn would care personally, because we're pretty good at separating the two, like in our brain cabin, but we definitely recommend taking it separate. But if you could take it at the exact same time, I think that would be huge for your relationship, and the growth that you'll see in your marriage is something that I can't state enough, to be perfectly honest. So now that you've done this, you're also now taking the Kingdom Speaker Academy, which is that something you ever saw yourself doing?
No, but I knew that I was definitely interested in the Speaker Academy because, well, no life like stage life. And, That just comes from me being a musician. I get to come alive on stage. And so when I heard about the Kingdom Speaker Academy and wow, I can get certified as a speaker, sign me up. But that's not saying that even an introvert, they could definitely gain some confidence out of what's to be from. Really, I can't speak about the coaching class, the life and leadership coaching, but I can definitely speak about, RLA, the Leadership Academy. And, what little I've heard from the Speaker Academy, it could definitely help bring you out of your shell.
I love this. So if you have not, I don't know if I've said this before, we're already like 112 episodes in, which is crazy for a little over a year. But Glenn is 100% the extrovert in our relationship, and I am the introvert. And that shocks people because I podcast and speak on stages and do all the things, but I'm actually a secret introvert, hardcore. Glenn can tell you after Activate this year in October, I came home and slept for 3 straight weeks at 10 hours a day because I was so exhausted because I'm such an introvert. And so if I can do it, then literally anybody could do this. But something I want to talk about, and I don't even know if you want to talk about this, but I'm going to probably force you to anyway. But you said at the very beginning, you're a blue collar guy, oil field, army, trucking, like that's the world and have
Right.
done for a very long time. And Glenn said he's 40. So since you were, like 19, 20 years old, like you've been.
Yeah, I mean, we want to talk about when I was digging ditches, starting out digging ditches, because I've literally done that too. Yeah, this is something manual labor has been a part of me my whole life.
Okay, so my manual labor, beautiful husband, I love him. But now here you are, you're taking a Kingdom Leadership Academy, you're taking a Speaker Academy, and like some very interesting things have happened to you that I think have shifted your perspective on what's possible for you.
Oh, you must be talking about our conversation today.
Yes, and how it unintentionally happened.
Yeah, I will say that I think that I have realized more of my calling. I'm not so sure that I'm ready to give that out fully yet, but I definitely do feel pulled in more of a direction of, helping people, helping my fellow veterans, things of that type nature, but more to follow on that at a later date.
Yes, but I'm excited about it, and I'm not going to spill all of your secrets. But what I am excited for is the fact that in only 4 months, what you thought was possible for your life has completely shifted.
Yes, I will say that. Again, I can't say enough about the Leadership Academy because it has woken up things in me and, it has strengthened my relationship with God, Jesus, and helped grow my faith that way. But it's also opened my eyes to what is possible. And, it has allowed me to learn a great deal about myself. Uh, and, not all of it's positive. You learn the good, the bad, the ugly, along with the good that you can make better. But with that good and bad and ugly, you're also getting the tools for how to, just as God does, turn that around for good, use it for good. It's very eye-opening.
I love this so much for you, and I love that, like, it hasn't even been 4 full months since you've been here. Isn't that wild? It hasn't even been 4 full months, and yet this is your experience and your takeaway. And so I'm like, I can't wait till you've been here as long as I have, or, we're 5, 10 years down the road, the kind of growth that we're going to have. And I think that's also important. And I know this podcast is going to get really long, but I think that's really important too, is that you're either growing together or you're growing apart. And this forces us to grow together.
I mean, not that we really need to be forced, but no, it definitely does. And just when I think that we can't get any closer, we do. And, not to keep, counting on how great the Leadership Academy is, but the Real Men Alliance community that Bobby is building is going to be such a profound community for men from all over. if you're a man, you can take something from this, whether you're a believer or you're not a believer. I tell you this, if you're not a believer and you come to Real Men Alliance, more than likely you're going to become a believer, because it is just an amazing community, a business, if that's what you're looking for. But either way, no matter what, Real Men Alliance has something for you.
I love this so much. The whole purpose of this conversation was, how do you get husband buy-in? How do you get your spouse to have the same vision that you have? And so before this becomes like a 3-hour episode, which maybe we really should podcast together. This is how listen, it's already been almost 40 minutes, and Glenn and I, we could talk like this all day. Even when he worked from home and we were together 24/7, we still could go back and forth like this all day, which I really love and appreciate about us.
Which here's the thing, yes, we're podcasting right now, but this is the way Lemon and I generally talk with one another. We talk through things, and just constantly there's a constant dialogue going on, unless we're sleeping. I'm constantly calling her throughout the day, running things by her, and vice versa. I mean, but again, that goes back to the communication. Start there.
I love that. And listen, sometimes he does talk to me in his sleep, and then he doesn't know that he's talked to me in his sleep, which is really fun. I love it. Yeah, it's a fun time. The youngest does that too, which is really funny. We love that. I love that for me with both of them. But what would you say? So the woman listening to this, right, she tuned in because she wants her husband to get on, at least support the vision that God's given her. What would you say to her as she approaches this conversation with her spouse, whatever that vision is?
First off, I would say, as with anything, and it gets frustrating even for me to hear, because, instant gratification, but pray on it. Pray on it for his ears to hear. Pray for your tongue and your lips and your words to convey what needs to be conveyed. And, just pray that he would have an open mind and listen with his heart instead of his mind. And really make sure that you are trying to align your will and your plans with what the Lord has in store. I think that's one of the biggest things I can say, and that the Lord would speak to him and help him to have an open mind and hear you.
I love that so much. I just think this is so beautiful. I love this conversation. And if you're struggling with this, or if your husband ever has questions about your vision, feel free to loop Glenn and I in. We'll tag team this conversation. Glenn is constantly talking to women in the community's husbands, women who are already here. They're like, let me give my husband your cell phone. I constantly am texting him at work, and I'm like, hey, just give your cell phone number out to another guy. Sorry, love you. And so he's open and available to talk to anytime you want to loop your husband in, because he'll talk to anybody. He's, like I said, he's the extrovert in our relationship, which I appreciate. We all need an introvert and an extrovert in the relationship. I think it would be really exhausting with 2 extroverts, to be perfectly honest. So anyway, babe, I just love and appreciate you for coming on and talking about these things. I forced him into it. When did I tell you about this? Yesterday?
Yeah, it was a couple days ago.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I think it was yesterday. I was like, hey, by the way,
Oh, it was yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, our time. This is how often we talk. We're like, when did we say this? It was literally yesterday. I was like, hey, by the way, I'm dropping an episode on Monday, and I told everybody you're going to be on the podcast Wednesday. So we need to go and do that really fast. So I just appreciate your willingness to come on.
I mean, again, I trust you. And yes, this is my inaugural, this is my first time on a podcast. The words escape my mind. Long day. But again, I trust you. And so if you think that I have something worthwhile saying, then, if given the chance, I'm going to talk. So I was all too happy to come on here with you. If the listeners want to hear us on a podcast, give the listeners what they want, and we'll do it.
I love it. I'll force him to do it. It's fine. Like I said, he'll talk a lot all the time, which I love about him. So just thank you, babe, for doing this. I do appreciate you.
Absolutely. And yes, if any of y'all's husbands want to speak to me, send Miss Lemon here a message, and she will definitely make sure I will get it, and I will speak to them, very happily.
I love that. I love that. I will link to places you guys can go. I'll even link to where you can check out if your husband wants to look at Real Men Alliance. I'll leave Glenn's link to check that out. So that way, because I think they would feel better connecting with Glenn than me necessarily. I'll leave that in there in the show notes for you, but shoot us a message. Like we want to chat. We want to talk to you. We want to hang out. So until Monday, friend, have a good week.
See you.
Hey friend, what a joy it has been to share today's journey with you. If you found a spark of inspiration or a nugget of wisdom that resonated, would you bless someone else by sharing this episode with them? It could be the encouragement they need to step into their purpose and calling. Also, if you could spare a moment to leave a review, it would mean the world to me. I really appreciate your feedback, and it really helps our community grow. Remember, the road to discovering God's call for you isn't one you have to walk alone. So join me again next Monday for another episode where we'll continue to explore the depths of leadership and the heights of our heavenly calling. Until then, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep trusting in His plan. God bless you, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye, friend.